Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Meet the Employer. Thank you very much for joining us all today. Now, today we are meeting the DPD Group. Did you know that they are a multinational award-winning parcel delivery organisation? They're the fastest growing express company in the UK. Wow, I didn't know that. But they're also the nation's favourite parcel delivery service and have been voted so for the last 8 years. So what I wanted to do before we get started is just to introduce a number of other people to you before we introduce our lovely people all from the DPD Group. So we have Toby, Relay, and we also have Mohammed doing the behind the scenes work. They're our producers and executive directors. So thank you very much for keeping us on the straight and narrow today. But we also have our fabulous BSL interpreter and captioner, which is Carol and Patricia. So thank you both very much for joining us today. So this is one in a series of webinars delivered for Air Hive, which is a 24/7 site that allows you to access a whole range of different resources, tools, and videos. And one of this obviously being the Meet the Employer. So this webinar is going to be recorded because we want to make sure that it's accessible for all. So without further ado, just to let you know that we will have a chat box, so you are more than welcome to start chatting and interacting with each other and also with us. I do want to let you know that one of our panelists, Steve Mills, will be leaving at 11:30. So if you have any questions that you want to ask him, please do so between now and 11:30. Just pop it in the chat box. But we will also have an opportunity for you to ask the DPD Group directly any specific questions that you have in mind, okay? We'll try and get to all of the questions as much as we can. So without further ado, let's get started. So we have speakers Steve, Sophie, we also have Kieran from the Inspire Network and Katie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you all introduce yourselves and then we'll get started. Katie, let's start with you.
Hi everyone, my name's Kate Burrows. I work as a recruitment manager for the DPD Group.
Sophie.
Hi everyone, my name's Sophie Robbins. I work in people and talent, looking after all of our apprentices and anyone who comes through our Inspire network, which we'll talk a bit more about in a minute.
Look forward to that, Sophie. Thank you. Who else do we have here? We have Kieran from the Inspire programme, is that right?
Kieran's actually going to just join us in a little while when we get to him.
In a little bit later. Yeah. Okay, and last but not least, we have the fabulous Steve Mills. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks, Rosa, and thanks for the wonderful bit of PR at the start there as well. That was very kind of you.
You're more than welcome. Shall we get started and ask some questions? Okay, I'm going to keep my eye on the chat box as well and see what comes in, Steve. So let's start off with question 1. This is a biggie. So can you share DPD's motivations for partnering with Evenbreak today and the Inspire story? There's sort of 2 questions in one there. I'm not trying to trick you.
No problem. I'm used to people doing things like that to me. But perhaps if I can just start off by saying that I am the Director of IT at DPD, and most of you won't be interested in that. But I am, more importantly, the ambassador for special educational needs and disabilities sitting on the board. So kind of whatever I say goes in a sense as regards to recruitment and employment of people with disabilities. So we're insanely flexible. Or I am, and I also help people to be flexible as well. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that a bit later as we go through. But where did it all start? Well, back in 2018, my own personal experience is that my son Edward, who's now 28, he's got moderate learning difficulties, and he's also a wheelchair user. And he was at Dudley College up in the West Midlands, where Sophie used to work. And I went to his final review. He'd reached the age of 25, and you will all know, just like I do, that there's nothing more for young adults like Edward after the age of 25. They're essentially thrown on the scrap heap. And anyway, I left the meeting somewhat disillusioned, and and sad at that situation, and thought about how can we help people with disabilities, and not least of all at that point in time, people with special educational needs at Dudley College. So I went back to the UK board and said there's a problem out there where businesses, colleges, charities and schools aren't working together and not giving people who have disabilities the opportunity, and they're all capable of working, by the way, in the workplace. So we created DPD Inspire. I took 3 people on in IT immediately, and those 3 people have all gone through internships, apprenticeships to full employment now, working in the IT department. In fact, we have 8 people that have achieved the same success story. You'll hear from Kieran, and he'll tell you in his own words about his experience at DP. He's a wonderful young man. So that's how it kind of all started, Rosa. And then from then on, you know, we hooked up with Evenbreak. We committed to the Valuable 500, 2 commitments on the Valuable 500 of note. One is that we said we will promote what we're doing with DPD Inspire and help other businesses look to do the same, and I'm working on that at the moment. But we also said that disabled people will be guaranteed an interview at DPD. Now, I'm not sure how successful we've been at that, but take it from me, you know, we will give you the opportunity of at least having an interview, which I know disabled people are often, you know, as a minority group, overlooked, and we won't do that at DPD. So I'll probably answer that question and a bit more for you, Rose. Is that okay?
That's more than enough. That's like an essay, Steve, but I'm really impressed because you seem to certainly be walking the talk, and you're doing a lot of things across many different levels with a wide variety of people to really move the conversation forward. But I think the biggest thing is the action that your organization is taking. And I just want to thank you for sharing such an inspirational story about your son, because you saw the barriers that were out there and you're actively making a change in the world of work. So I want to thank you very much for that, Steve. That's a fabulous story. Okay, so let me go on to Sophie. Sophie, I want to ask you a question. What range of roles do you have available at DPD? We all maybe assume you've got like delivery drivers, but we know that the DPD is a large organization and you have a whole range of opportunities. Can you share that with us, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and you've said it as it is really, most people look at DPD, they might see our vans and our lorries on the motorway and they think that's it, I've got to sit in a van, deliver a parcel, which is absolutely our bread and butter and what we're most known for. But there is so much fantastic stuff that goes on behind the scenes and so many amazing teams that people can work a part of. For example, my own role, before I worked at DPD, I wouldn't have known that there was a role for me that didn't involve getting out there with parcels and working in the people and talent, which is our kind of HR department. But no, there's fantastic roles. We've got our CSR team, customer services. Most departments within the business have their own administrators, and the list is endless, really. And the great thing about DPD is that we pride ourselves on our innovation. So if an individual has skills and the right DNA, we are not opposed to finding a role that might suit them and what they're looking for and how it can benefit the business.
I'm curious, right? I want to know, how large is your organization? How many roles do you have? And how are the divisions set up? Katie, can you share that with us?
Yeah, of course. So we have at the moment roughly about 12,000 people that are employed by DPD on a permanent basis. Those roles range from warehouse operatives, so the guys who sort the parcels, who do an absolutely tremendous job for us, unloading and loading trailers, getting them onto vans in the morning, right the way up to sort of Steve's director level. You know, it's incredible. They cover a variety of departments, like Sophie said. We have marketing, we have customer services, we have administration teams, we've got where I work in recruitment. there's engineering. There is so many opportunities, so many departments, things that you wouldn't necessarily associate with delivering a parcel. So obviously Steve's department is gigantic. He's obviously the director of IT. We've even got an international department, so we are part of a larger European group. So we have we have people who focus on international delivery only, as opposed to kind of domestic. So there's a wide variety of roles. We also have, I think it's about, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, it's about 12,000 what we call owner drivers. So there are van drivers that you see on the road, and they are self-employed. And they have their roots, so it's like their own little franchise, their own little business. They run it as such. So yeah, so it is a really, really large company. We are based nationally. As our furthest north depot is Aberdeen, and our furthest south is Truro in Cornwall, and we have everything in between.
I've got to ask you a couple more questions, Kate. I'm not going to let you go before I move on to Steve. Okay, so you have all of these roles and opportunities, right? And Steve, you might be able to come in here too. What do you find are the most challenging roles to fill, and why?
Oh,
there might be a few, but I'm just curious to understand that, what do you find is more challenging to fill, and why?
I think from a recruitment perspective, I think it is usually geographical location. We have some areas of the UK that typically, I'll use Aberdeen, for example. Aberdeen is renowned for oil and gas. You don't, there's not really much around it. It's sort of quite remote as a city. So, we potentially have, problems recruiting for all levels at that kind of location. Again, it depends on the geographical location, really. There's their own challenges. London is particularly challenging because, as we all know, in London, you don't tend to have lots of large distribution centres and large sort of warehousing operations. It's all sort of modern high-rises. So again, it can be quite challenging in those areas as well. But I think it really depends on what sort of role we're recruiting for. It depends what the hiring manager is looking for, the specific skill set. And realistically, it's whether those people are out there in the marketplace at that moment in time.
Absolutely. Steve, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, just a couple of things really, Rose and Katie. One, if there's anybody on the call today who is interested in driving what we call the big line haul vehicles, the big lorries that you see moving up and down the motorway, there is a national shortage of those people. You probably may have read about it in the press. It's fairly high profile at the moment. Supermarkets, companies like DPD, parcel delivery companies, everybody's affected by that. We are actively recruiting in that area and training people up as well into those jobs. So if you're capable and interested in those sort of jobs, we are very interested. It also pays very good money, and even though it might be sort of somewhat unsociable hours. And I think that's the other point I'd make is some of the roles, because we are a 7/24 operation. So if you work in the big sortation centres, centrally in the West Midlands typically, or the East Midlands, then recruiting in those areas, because it's people don't want to work nights really, do they? Some people have to. But that can be a challenge for us as well at times.
I mean, the pandemic's really changed things as well, hasn't it? Both for organisations and for individuals. We might talk a little bit about that later. Yeah. I can see a little question here in the chat coming up, because Steve, obviously a few ears pricked up when they heard that you work in the IT area. Tell us a little more about your IT division and the sort of roles that you have there.
Well, as you can imagine, it's about. I've got a team of about 200 people at the moment. Most of that is based in the UK. Some is not, and I use some third-party companies around the world to help us as well in terms of providing IT solutions. But it ranges from, I've got a small admin team, of 2 or 3 ladies. I've got commercial people. Financial, legal skilled people. I've obviously got software programmers and software testers, people who design systems. I've got people who work in our innovation team, people who fix laptops. So take Sinead and Callum from the Inspire program. They work in our repair centre and they're repairing equipment for us, and they're doing terrific job. So if you think about a computer, you've got people like in the desktop, the PC and the laptop team, people taking care of mobile phones, network people working on complicated things like Wi-Fi networks and stuff like that. So it's the full range of any IT job is what we've got at the moment.
Great, thank you. Okay, so let me move on to my next question. I'm going to stick with you here, Steve, okay? Put you under a little bit of pressure.
No problem.
So, okay, this is a biggie. I know that all of our viewers, all of our audience today may want to ask you this question. Are you ready?
I'm ready as I'll ever be.
Why should our candidates at Evenbreak apply to work at DPD? What perks and benefits do you offer?
I think in the moment, I know Casey's going to pick up on some of the specifics, and I'm going to pinch a little bit of a question that's later on that I know that you'll be interested at to me. I want to talk about flexibility, and I want to talk about a little bit about adjustments and accommodations. In other words, if you've got a concern about applying for a job at DPD, clearly I said to Mohammed earlier, if you want to do a driving job, clearly you've got to be capable of driving. You can't have any physical restrictions that doesn't allow you to drive. Common sense, really, isn't it? But if you've got any concerns, and I think from me and the whole board all the way down, then we will provide as much flexibility and as many adjustments as we possibly can, and that is a commitment right from the top of DPD. I was talking earlier, funny enough, about I think you'll want to touch on this, Rosa, so I'm stealing a bit of your thunder in a way, but working from home, and we'll talk about that a little bit more and what happens at DPD. Yes, we're not 100% all returning back to the office, but if you are capable of doing a job and you're disabled, and we think you are capable of doing the job, and it means that you've got to work from home permanently, then I have no problem with that, and nobody else in the DPD organisation should do either, because I often say to people in my team, you can work on the moon for all I care, really, as long as you do a fabulous job for us. I said I can't pay for your travel to go to the moon, but if you want to go and work there, it's no problem for me.
Let's all go and work on the moon. You've sold it to me, Steve. Okay, let me ask, what else is there? There's flexible working. What else can that you feel is unique to your organisation that you would like our candidates to know about?
Well, Casey's going to help me out a bit. Job sharing. We do job sharing as another good example. So again, if somebody doesn't want to, to share a job and they want to work part-time, essentially, we'll take care of that as well. We'll look at reduced hours. I think if we can do the job and you only want to do 4 days out of 5 rather than doing 5 days, we have people like that at DPD that we accommodate as well. So there's a couple of examples. Katie, can you help me out with any more?
Of course. So we have a very generous annual leave entitlement. So it's for people who work sort of Monday to Friday, it's 23 days per annum plus the bank holidays. And again, it depends what role you're in at DPD, because obviously our depots, for example, they still sort on bank holidays, so they would have that as an additional day instead, and that increases with length of service. One of the biggest things that you notice about DPD is longevity of service within DPD. So our Chief Operating Officer has been with us now for 30 years. There's so many people within the business that have got 15, 20, 25, 30 years service. It's incredible to be working with these people. They've seen so many changes. We have a huge range of flexible benefits. So we can buy and sell holiday up to 5 days. You can have extra time off if you want. You can pay for extra time off. You've got things like life assurance, travel insurance. You can buy annualized travel insurance through your salary sacrifice. It's a very very good pension scheme with us as well. We've got access to a number of other benefits through something called My Shopping. So there's lots of really good bargains on there for everybody. I know that I'm always looking at that, see what bargains I can get. There's so many good things out there. We are an employer of choice, especially here within the West and East Midlands. We've done, they do a lot of employee engagement activities. They've had, the last couple of years, we've had numerous gifts sent to us. We had some cupcakes last year. We've had some beautiful chocolate brownies sent on a couple of occasions. It does not help the waistline in the slightest.
Katie, you are selling, guys. When can I join? When can I sign up? Sorry, Jean.
We've done all these things. So they care about their employee engagement. They send out buzz surveys, so we all get to have our say on things. It's you say, we deliver. You can take ideas to the table. It is a really fantastic organisation to work for.
I want to ask the three of you, because I think this is important. I want to come back to those accommodations, right? Because obviously our focus is how we help our highly talented disabled candidates thrive in the world of work, right? Because we know that they're brilliant. So can you give me an example of the sort of adjustments that you've made? Am I putting anyone under the spot, Steve?
Putting me and Sophie on the spot here, but I think Sophie, have we got a good example? I don't think we did anything for Kieran, who's going to join us later. We didn't have to make any reason adjustment for Kieran, I don't think.
I think the Kieran's journey is actually, we can use that as an example, and apologies that I'm probably about to say something he might wish to repeat later. But for Kieran, we worked with Kieran at college, and he had very much been told throughout his education that work would be really difficult for him to achieve due to various barriers that pretty much other people put in front of him, not himself. So when he came to DPD, we worked with him to identify things that may be a little bit more challenging and work with them. What we soon identified was that actually all these barriers that people had mentioned from college or school or in the local authority weren't barriers at all, which is why Steve's absolutely correct in that we didn't actually have to do that much. It was more so giving Kieran the confidence in his own ability and challenging what he'd been told for so many years. I think the one thing that we did do for Kieran was we staggered his hours. He'd gone from being told that paid employment was not something that was achievable for him, and then here we were saying actually we'd be more than willing to employ you full time. That was a big difference of not what Kieran was expecting. And so we worked with him to build him up to those hours so that he could adjust to work in life and a future that, like I said, he didn't necessarily see for himself. And I think that's really the biggest adjustment that we made, is whereas we were ready to get him in and throw him in full time because he was so fantastic during his internship, we recognised that in order for Kieran to have the best start to his career, we needed to take it step by step, and it's worked brilliantly. And I'll leave the rest to Kieran to explain to you when he comes in.
Fantastic. Sophie, that's a great example. Sorry, Steve, I was interrupting. Thank you so much for sharing that. Those are the sorts of stories that I think our candidates want to hear. I'm just going to let you all know, I've had a lady say, can I sign up too? Great benefits. So I'm just letting you know, it's not a question, but obviously it's an endorsement. Sorry, Steve, Katie, did you want to come in there?
Yeah, sorry, Rose. I was just going to talk about one of the guy who works in IT, a guy called Mitch, who Sophie knows very well. And one of his, it was a fairly minor adjustment, but it was an important one for Mitch. And he has a particular sensitivity to type of clothing he can work, I think, Sophie. So we made something, and he wanted to, come to work in looking at, perhaps not suitable for the workplace, shall we say. And we made an accommodation for him and said, please wear something, that looks presentable, but you can wear like a pair of like blue tracksuit bottoms because the cotton and the material was acceptable to him. So, little things like that go a long way. for people who it's a real problem for him, or it was, but we broke down that barrier and found a compromise and a way forward, and Mitch was happy after that, as were we. So it's about understanding people's challenges and then seeing how we can work together to accommodate them. It's nothing's insurmountable, really. At the end of the day, that's how I look at it.
Well, that's it. Well, where there's a will, there's a way, right? The smallest of changes can make the biggest of impacts. And Steve and Sophie, you're so eloquently giving us some examples. Sorry if you felt I was putting you under the spot there, but those are just amazing stories. There's a question that's come in. Okay, I'm just going to open it out to everyone. I would like to ask the group, do you have roles for overseeing travel operations?
I think the answer is yes. So we have a number of roles, not least of all in our international department. Funny enough, there's a young lady called Ellie who works in the admin team there. She was one of our students from Dudley College as well, just as an FYI. But they manage the travel of parcels, if you like, operationally. So there are various roles, both domestically and for our international business, that fit into that category. Katie's nodding her head, so I'm pleased about that. And I hope that answers the question. So I think it's a yes. I don't know if we've got any vacancies at the moment, but we do have those roles.
That's what I was just about to defer to Katie. Katie, any opportunities there at the moment? Or should I just say to our candidates, go check out the Evenbreak website, because we know that you've got lots of opportunities there. Can you tell us what you've got at the minute?
It would be very difficult, Rhoda, for me to actually kind of tell you every single opportunity, just to kind of give you an idea of, we as the team that I work in, we cover monthly and weekly recruitment across the business. We've got, at the moment, as it stands, we're close to about 610 roles, I think it is, across the UK. So there is so many opportunities with DPD at the moment. So go to the Evenbreak website, have a look on there, because we do post all of our opportunities on there. Alternatively, have a look on our website as well, because again, our opportunities will be listed there. You can search via geographical location, so you can, from a drop down, you can select your nearest town or city or the nearest depot to where you are based. And obviously you can see what opportunities are there.
Fabulous, thank you. So guys, if you haven't checked it out already, you can be doing it now. I'm sure you can all multitask. Get onto the Evenbreak job site, just type in DPD in the search box and see what comes up. There may be some interesting roles. I know I had a cheeky look earlier, and there's some really fabulous roles and opportunities. I'm just conscious of the time. It is 11:28. Does anybody have any questions that they want to ask Steve at this point? If you do, please pop them into the chat box or to the Q&A box. Happy to look at either. Steve, I'm just going to come back to you. Is there anything else that you want to share? Any last pieces of wisdom or pearls of insight that you want to share with our candidates today?
Nothing additional to what I've said, to be honest, Rose. Hopefully people can see that we're committed to the cause to helping disabled people. We made a number of commitments, and we're working hard to uphold those. And we're on a journey to recruit more of our DPD Inspire students who typically supported internship. But I know that's not what today's about. But we're looking at a range of helping out different people. We're also sort of trying to help out in the community. We're running a competition at the moment with all the special educational needs schools and colleges in the Black Country, which is where I live. And we're running a sustainability competition. We'll offer prizes to them. So we're doing a little bit more than the recruitment. We're trying to play a bigger role in the community, particularly for those people that have disabilities. So we're trying to help out in a number of ways. And hopefully, that's seen as a positive.
Mm-hmm. So essentially, that's community outreach, isn't it? It's reaching out to communities. Yeah. Any other examples of community outreach, Katie, Sophie, that you want to share that's been successful?
I think I can jump in here, Katie. I've done a lot recently with the pandemic. We found a lot of, and again, this focuses on the schools and colleges, but what we're really trying to do is prevent the issue of young people getting to the age of 25 and then thinking, okay, so what now? We want to help out earlier in their education so that they can see that they absolutely are capable of work and have a little bit more confidence in themselves. So one of the things that we've been doing over the pandemic is some virtual engagement sessions with schools. We did a 4-week work experience programme, all online through Speakers for Schools, which was absolutely fantastic. And it really broadened young people's minds to the world of work and what is out there, and opened their eyes to something that previously doors had been shut to, because not many people had a lot of faith in their futures in employment. But we really want to make a difference. So engaging in that way with our local community, we've found, is making a good difference in the right direction.
Fabulous. I'm not surprised that you're voted the favourite delivery company 8 years in a row, if you're doing that sort of work in the community. And obviously, because you're diverse and inclusive and you welcome everyone regardless of age, etc., what would you say to that older age group, or those who've been out of work for a little bit and are wanting to return into the workplace? Katie?
There's no barrier for me. You know, I'm going to have to disappear, I'm afraid, Rosa, but if I can just finish answering that one for you, and then I'll leave you in the capable hand of Katie and Sophie. But look at me, right? Age, size, or anything else, there's no barrier to employment, is it, right? So to me, it's a nonsense. I don't accept anything. It's, you know, if you're capable of doing the job, I don't care, you know, what you're believing, what you do, as long as you're a good employee who does a good job with the right attitude. It's all I personally worry about, and I think hopefully DPD culture is like that anyway. But you know, if you're disabled and you know, if there's a problem, people like me are there to sort it out, right? That's what we're paid to do. So no, age is a nonsense. Thankfully, otherwise they got rid of me years ago.
Steve, thank you very much. We know you need to depart. We really do appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us today. We'll let you go.
Thank you.
We're going to move on while Steve departs. Okay, so there's a question here as well. What is the recruitment process like, and how can I make my application stand out? This is going to go across to Katie.
Okay, so our recruitment process, it's really kind of tailored for each role. Usually there would be a 2-step interview process. Obviously, due to the pandemic, we've been doing a lot of interviews via video conferencing, like we're all on today. And then, but now, you know, we're starting to see the world outside open back up again. You know, that there'll be opportunities potentially to come to site. Now, some of our more specialist roles, they might have a slightly different recruitment process, insofar as you may have a test to do, a skills test, or we do like numerical reasoning or verbal reasoning tests or things like that. There could be presentations involved. It really depends on the type of role that's out there. You know, it depends what skill set we're looking for. It depends what we might want to see evidence of that. So really it kind of varies, but typically you're looking at a 2-stage interview process.
2-stage, okay. And again, as you mentioned, dependent on the role, I suppose,
Yeah.
in the area, because it's going to be different. You might need to do particular assessments or whatever. I know it's going to come up later, but you did mention verbal reasoning and things like that. So obviously you give accommodation to candidates on things like that if they need a little bit more extra time, etc.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, everything, you know, we would have those discussions on a one-to-one basis. You know, everything would be accommodated.
Okay, just quickly before we move across, how can a candidate stand out in their application? Okay. This is a biggie. They're all asking this question.
So I always say to people, it's about making your CV relevant. You know, I mean, we've all been guilty of it at times, that you see a role and you think, oh, I could do that, and not a problem. it's important to read the role. It's important to read the skill set that they're looking for. You know, some roles, and this is, you know, across every role and employment that's out there, you know, some roles do require specialist qualifications or a specific level of qualification. And obviously, if you don't meet that criteria, then unfortunately, you potentially wouldn't be considered for that opportunity. So it's important that on your CV, you put down all of your relevant experience. You know, it's really great to see that, you know, when you were 15, you might have had a paper round, but you have to go through the CV right to the bottom to find their most recent experience. The most recent experience right at the top, front and centre, telling the world what you've done, list in there all your key skills, any qualifications you might have done, some additional learning, you know, vocational studies, anything like that. Get it in there, because that's what we as recruiters, that's what we look for. You know, we look for those transferable skills. And again, when you're reading the adverts, if it's really simple to make a CV quite blanketed, so quite kind of, so it covers everything, but it's a constantly evolving document. It's something that, you know, you keep up to date. You don't drag your CV out from when you were 16 and say, well, I'll use that 15 years later and not update it. You need to keep it relevant, keep it up to date. So if the job's asking for examples of customer service or demonstrable experience about customer services, and you've been a customer service advisor for the last 10 years, put that in there, get it there, front center, big bold writing so we can see it, because that's what we will look for. We will look for those key phrases, key terms, and drag those out.
Katie, fabulous. Guys, you've heard it from the recruiter. She is giving you gold dust, special tips, make it relevant, get your key skills up front and center on your CV. And Katie also has talked about the transferable skills. Sometimes we forget that we've got all these fabulous skills from other places and experiences, and they're very, very relevant. If anyone is interested, please reach out to Evenbreak if you want some support with CV writing. We have got stacks of articles on the Hive as well for you to check out. Now, what I wanted to do before we go to questions is I wanted to go to Kieran. I want to hear your story, Kieran. But I wanted to say, first of all, thank you so much for joining us today. You're an absolute superstar. How are you?
Oh, good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. No, I'm going to just let you share your story. You tell us a little bit about your story, and I know it's related to the Inspire program.
Yes, I started the course on the Inspire because I thought I'd give it a try, giving the job opportunities as well, opening up many doors. And at the same time, it's also giving me some work experience for when I've got older, like in the future. And it's been quite a good, wonderful experience, to be honest. It's like I've been learning all sorts of new things, all the regulations, all the actual meeting new people. It's just being a wonderful ride, to be honest. So, and I've had plenty and lots of support. Like they've gone through it step by step with me. They haven't just poured it all on top. We're being quite reasonable. We're being understandable, and they just let me slowly sinking, and let me get to hang the grip of a rope before I started.
Kieran, this is fabulous. You used two key words there: understanding and reasonable. It's really interesting because, you know, as a careers coach, when we speak to candidates, what are the things that you're looking for from an employer? And this is exactly what they say: an understanding employer. And I'm just looking for some reasonable adjustments. And you mentioned earlier that you felt really well supported. Can you expand a little bit more about the support that you received from Sophie and Steve and the organisation in general? Tell us a little bit more about those supports you got.
Yes, some of the support I had during as well, one of the major ones too. When I was doing the internship course in the college, coming here as well, the pandemic started and we was in the lockdown. but unfortunately I wasn't able to come onto the site and do the work because it was manual labour. So what we did, we had online meetings like what we are doing right now, and we were going through all the protocols, and if we need any support, Sophie was there, like asking us all the time as well. If we needed anything, to get in touch with her, and same for the work as well. They dropped us an email saying if there's any information you needed or if there's anything you need changing before you come back, just let us know, and we'll see if we can do some arrangements to fit your abilities.
Fantastic. So sometimes it's just simply reaching out and asking, isn't it, Sophie?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just to expand on what Kieran was saying, so when the pandemic started in March of 2020, Kieran was still under the college, which meant that due to their closure, even though at DPD we were like, our operation's still going, we've never stopped. Unfortunately, the college, for their health and safety, had to stop the students coming in. And what we didn't want, as we didn't know how long the lockdown, the college closure was going to be, we didn't want Kieran and his peers, who were also on the Inspire programme, losing touch with their managers and their roles. So we were really keen to keep that going, keep everyone in touch. So then by the time we were in a position to offer Kieran a role, which we did in November of 2020, we already had ironed out what support he would need, which, like I said earlier, revolved mostly about the hours and building it up, as this was your first ever job, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Fabulous. Can I ask you, Kieran, what skills do you feel that you've developed? How do you feel you've developed in this role?
To be honest, the highest ones I would have to say is self-esteem and confidence, because I wasn't too great in those genres when I was growing up, like from my childhood. But having all the support what I've had from college, what I've had from Sophie, what I've had from the work as well, it's just been a huge impact, and it's just helped me so much. Like I never, to be honest, if I saw my younger self and spoke to myself when I was younger, I wouldn't have been able to do this. Like if I spoke to my younger self and said to him, "You'll be doing this in the next few years," I wouldn't believe myself because I didn't think it would be possible. But here I am, from plenty of support, and I'm just really grateful that I'm here.
Fantastic, Kieran. You're busting myths all over the place, really. One last question, right? What would you say to others? What would you say to others that might be a little nervous about sharing their disability or reaching out to ask for support? What would be what would be that thing that you'd tell them or you'd want to share with them?
I would tell them to be proud, because to be honest, a disability as well, that's what makes you you. Everyone's special, we're all independent, no one's the same, and it doesn't matter what disability you got and in what sense, we're all basically the same. So if you're ever nervous, just don't try to suppress it. Just get help. It's easy enough. It may be a little hard, a bit difficult, but I was the same in the same boat. But with a little help, a little push, anything is possible. Just you have to keep on top of it, keep on pushing, and things will look up.
Fantastic. Kieran, I see you do the TEDx speak here. That was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for coming online live and sharing your story. We really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I do have one question to ask before we go to Q&A, if that's okay. I wanted to ask, and I know we touched on this earlier, what types of accommodations and reasonable adjustments can DPD put in place for candidates? And is this support available from the beginning or only after they start with DPD? Who wants to answer that? Katie?
I'll let you, Sophie, because this is your area of expertise.
Let's go, Sophie.
That's fine. Absolutely, it is right from the beginning. We won't just wait until someone's employed with us to see like what adjustments or any extra support that they may need. It is right from recruitment. All of our adverts include a line right at the bottom that says, and very proudly states, that we are a valuable 500 committed and disability confident employer. And we don't put that on there, you know, we're very much beyond a tick in the box company. We put that on there because we want you to reach out and have faith that if you tell us you need a bit of support or an adjustment made to any part of our recruitment process, as long as you know you're right for the role and it's a reasonable request, we will do everything in our power to accommodate that for you. Whether that's, you've noticed that the first stage is a telephone interview and that's not something that's accessible to you, that's absolutely fine. You get in touch with one of our recruiters or myself, and where reasonable and where we can, we will make adjustments in any way that we can.
Fabulous. Thank you for sharing that. I'm just going to reach over to our chat now, because I think we're going to move into our Q&A session. This is what's coming through on the chat box. So we have someone saying, thank you so much, Kieran, for sharing your story today, and congratulations on your wonderful achievement. We have somebody else saying, thank you for that. We also have, let me see. So we've got lots of people actually saying, thank you very much, Kieran, for sharing your story. So well done with that. Okay, let's see what else we have coming in. We have somebody here who said, and this is going back a little bit further back on the chat. Good morning, all. I'm an employment specialist in the NHS Westminster. I support clients to find paid work and would very much like to contact you after the webinar. Who should I contact in your team for London vacancies, please?
So I think it depends on which vacancies. So you've obviously got all of our roles being advertised on Evenbreak. So if there are vacancies in the area in which you're working, you can apply through there. But if you've got some more specific questions around the support that we can offer, I'm more than happy to have any emails come into my email address. I can get that shared out afterwards so that people have got a copy of it. I don't know if that would be better, Rosa, than saying it here and then people having to scramble to write it down or try and remember it. Would that be better?
Whatever you feel most comfortable with, you know, Sophie. So, you know, you can have a little think about it. We can come back to it, but whatever you feel is most best suitable for you and for the organisation. Okay, we're going to open up the Q&A box. So let's see what's happening. Really, let's open up the Q&A box and see what questions there are. Okay. One question here is, and this is interesting, why are you working for the DPD Group? What is it about the DPD Group that keeps you there?
Sophie? To go first, or Katie?
I think it's the challenge that it sets me. I you know, no 2 days are ever the same. They never are the same. It keeps me, it very much challenges me on an ongoing basis, which is what I like, the fact that it's fast paced. You know, everything is, and that's one thing about DPD, we are so fast paced. It is incredible at the rate of speed that we work and how things go. But I have an absolutely fantastic team that I work with and I'm part of, you know, and they really kind of keep me going. And I can't really, and again, the teams that I work with, you know, I've known them now for 5 years. I'm kind of part of their furniture a little bit, like they know me, I know them. So yeah, that's kind of what keeps me here. Okay, Sophie.
I think for me, so Steve kind of alluded to it earlier, but I actually used to work at the college in which Kieran and the other Inspire interns came to DPD from, and then obviously got offered my job here. And I think for me, the thing that keeps me here and made me want to say yes please when we spoke about this role was, it is so fantastic to be in a company that really wants to make a difference. Like, we're not just saying it for PR or for image, and I hope that that is coming across in this talk today, that we really do want to make a difference. And so being in this role, I feel that we can do that, and we're working towards doing that. And it's such a, I'm so proud to be part of it, and it is a really fantastic role to be in. I feel very fortunate. to be in this
And
role.
I've got to ask you, Kieran, the same question. Can you share with us, what is it about the organisation that you really enjoy being a part of?
I'd say it's the support, and going back to what Sophie said, it's actually just trying to make a difference, like the amount of support as well, and all the different charities I do as well. They really are trying to make a change.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Let's see if we've got any other questions that are coming in our Q&A box, or even in our chat box. We've got some comments here from individuals who are saying that they are looking for work, they're looking for opportunities. And so really, we should direct them to your opportunities across the Evenbreak website. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And I do want to ask this question, and I think I may have asked this in a slightly different way earlier, but what would you say to our Evenbreak candidates about why they should come and work with the DPD Group? What would be your top 2 or 3 things that you would say? Katie?
I think sort of mirrors what Sophie said, in a way that, we actually want to make a difference. We're not just saying it for the sake of it, or because it has to be a tick box exercise, or, with anything like that. We actually do, we want to make a difference, and we do care. And I think it's important for people to understand that they can have a rewarding career. It's and like Steve said, we can make reasonable adjustments. If candidates are suitable for a role, then they will be interviewed. We will, and if nothing else, it will give people experience. And that's what it's all about. It's all about outreaching to our community as well, and getting the word out there that we are such a fantastic employer.
Okay, somebody has asked this question. What are the different teams within DPD? I know that you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but just to remind everyone, Katie, can you just go through that again?
Yeah, so we have opportunities and roles that range from warehouse operative roles, so the guys that unload and load trailers or vans in either our depots or our hubs. We have driver opportunities right the way up to kind of, potentially up to Steve's level of being a director, and everything in between. They cover near enough every sort of department you'd expect at any company, marketing, finance, payroll, customer services, international. There's so many opportunities there. Like I said, we do have so many opportunities. So I'm sure that there will be something that interests or something that suits everyone. And
yeah,
and that's the important message.
Great. What I'd like to suggest is, why not pop along to the DPD UK website and just check out the About Us. You can also see opportunities there, but if you also go onto the Evenbreak job site, you'll see what's available there. Yeah, I think that's us. We're coming close to the end of our session. I just want to do one quick check and see if there's any more questions that have come in. No, I think that's it. But we did cover quite a lot, didn't we? Because we put Steve under a bit of pressure earlier and we asked him a couple of questions. So I wanted to say a very big thank you to you all, to Katie, to Sophie, to Kieran and to Steve for joining us today and sharing all the wonderful opportunities and how you do make your organisation diverse and inclusive. And I want to say a big thank you to everyone else as well. Thank you very much for coming along today and asking those questions and being with us. We're going to sign out now. So everyone take care. Have a fabulous day. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye now.